right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're all set for the leadership panel discussion around the theme, the future of work today, tomorrow, for all. I believe that this topic is absolutely relevant in the times that we are in. So let's actually bring on board our leaders who will be joining us to share their insights. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have with us once again, Mr. Prasad, who's the Managing Director and RVP Sales, India and SAARC with Zendesk, who will be moderating this wonderful panel discussion for all of us. Now, joining him, let me also quickly introduce our set of esteemed panelists. We have with us Mr. Anshuman Maheshwary, Chief Operating Officer, IIFL Wealth and Asset Management, who comes with more than 20 years of experience with his deep expertise on strategy and business planning, reinforcing the firm's capabilities to drive performance and deliver growth ambitions. We also have with us Mr. Shreeraj Deshpande, Chief Operating Officer, Future Generali India Insurance Company Limited, who comes with a prolific experience of more than 33 years of significant domain expertise with a successful track record of turning around rapidly growing businesses, building and leading passionate large teams. We also have with us Mr. K.E. Ranganathan, Managing Director, Roca, and he comes with more than 33 years of experience in finance, accounting, business planning, strategy, marketing, and sales. In fact, many of us know him having held senior positions in various companies of Murugappa and the TVS groups. The panel also includes prolific names such as Mr. Dinesh Aggarwal, Joint Managing Director, Panasonic Life Solutions India Private Limited. In fact, in a career spanning 32 years, primarily in manufacturing companies, he has conceived and executed new businesses and manufacturing trading joint ventures with British, American, and Taiwanese companies. We also have with us Ms. Sandhya Chaudhary, Director and COO, Consumer Banking India, Citibank, a strategic leader with an experience of more than 2 decades at cross-functional levels in the financial industry. She's someone who has brought in more than a decade of experience also with American Express. And we also have with us none other than Mr. Jasjit Sethi, CEO, TCI Supply Chain Solutions. He comes with over 3 decades of experience with a demonstrated history of leading change in the logistics and supply chain industry. A strong business development professional skilled in strategic planning, negotiation, operations management, freight network design, and supply chain optimization. So yes, on that note, it looks like we're all set in the presence of the dynamic leaders. Let's also indulge in a dynamic discussion. I'm going to hand over the proceedings to our session moderator. Katie, over to you there.
Thank you, Kavya. A very warm welcome to all the panelists. You know, as the introductions are going through, and I was just thinking through the wealth of experience and that is available on this panel today that could be put to great use. And I wanted to start by saying, I think welcome to digital first and virtual everyday world. At least that's the world, and this is the state of world that we've been living in the last 14, 15 months. Probably will stay, in a similar manner for some more time. And before we start, I want to make sure that, everybody who's joining are they're safe and their families are safe. Like I said, we have this wealth of experience that I want to put to use, and I wanted to make sure that we bring you 3-4 things actually. The future of work will involve engaging, all of us know we all here for a customer. But today in the digital first and virtual everyday world, while the consumer and customer, partner, distributors are as important as the employees. Because today's employees doesn't come to office not in the full form until unless you're in an essential service and some form of other you can come in the state that you depends. But all of us, some portion of our employees are continues to work from remote and maybe from home. That means as a business leaders for us to focus on not just for consumers and their experience and partners or distributors and the chain of, the supply chain, if you want to call it as, or value chain, includes very key integral part of employee. Because that employee, what drives a great customer engagement and experience and drives revenue for you. And it is today's world, it is so important that all of us are living in this virtual world, like I call, and we are also meeting virtually today. That also signifies how important this playing a role for us. And these employees are working from home, and the lines, like I say, it's getting blurred between professional and personal life. It's causing mental well-being, and that's being challenged. I think all the business leaders that have been talking across the industry, and not just the panel today, but also outside, we believe that everybody is leading with empathy. We also believe that everybody is taking care of their employees like they take care of the customers, who drives the revenue for them, and keeps the company afloat. But without further ado, and I wanted to bring in and start this conversation today. And everybody knows Dhoni, and Dhoni is popular for one cricket shot called helicopter shot. And if you talk about cricket and Dhoni, the prominence, and you talk about Ranga and the industry experience that he brings in, and the wealth that he brings in. And recently, Ranga, if I want to ask you this question, you talked about there is a helicopter theory that you brought in, or approach that you brought into Roca, which posted a phenomenal growth even during pandemic. That made me curious. I know helicopter shot is popular in cricket. What are you trying to do with this particular approach that you brought to business, and what you can share with all our audience today?
Yeah, thanks, Prasad, and pleasure to be here with the participants. Quickly understanding this helicopter analogy, So businesses normally go on a very, very traditional kind of growth, as you say, like, the Hindu rate of growth, which is 5%. But we decided that, COVID had come in 2020. We moved to a super growth to survival quarter. From survival, within the next quarter, we came back to revival quarter. And then we were back to growth in the last quarter of October, November, December. And then we decided, come January 2021, when the COVID was a little bit low in India and everything was unlocking, we said, why not we do a helicopter takeoff? So what is a helicopter takeoff? It is a vertical takeoff in the sense, right? So for which you need to back-end plan certain customer-oriented actions, because you want more people to buy our products. And being a bathroom brand, every day, everybody wakes up to the brand world. And the first brand you see in your everyday life is the bathroom brand. It could be Pariware, it could be Roca, or whatever. Because when you wake up, you go to your toilet and then you see a basin or a commode. No? So in that sense, we need to make more trade partners buy, more builders buy, more consumers buy from them, more plumbing technicians buy. So we created a fantastic program on January 2nd to launch in India, which created a huge pull from the market. And then the new product launches were coined around the same time. And then digitally, we made a digital marketplace called Pariware Safe Buy. So in a pandemic time, many people may buy from home. And then with all the loyalty program excitement, we decided, come on here, let's take off vertical. So we put together a huge program. And because of that, the business took off vertically in the period January to May. We grew by 68% year on year. So that is not heard of in any part of the world. And we are so glad that all our actions were synchronized like an orchestra. And then we are able to pull a nice, music out of it. So that's the short and sweet answer. But I'm happy to reach out to individuals if you really want to know, because to me, there is no trade secret. This is a very, very complicated model of strategy and execution. So nobody can try and copy it so easily. So I have no problem, but I'm here to kind of, pass on the knowledge.
Ranga, thank you. I think that's a beautiful analogy, right? And the vertical takeoff and the helicopter analogy, especially for Chennai Super Kings, that's the headquarters that you seated in. This would resonate. And who is not a Dhoni fan? And everybody loves that man for what they bring in. But thank you, Ranga, for sharing that perspective. And I want to bring in Anshuman into the conversation. Especially Anshuman, in the business that you operate, dealing with high net worth individuals. And I'm sure, like I said at the beginning, at the intro, we evolved into a digital first, virtual everyday kind of a world. And especially financial service industry, in particularly wealth management in particular, has need a lot of in-person meetings, and especially for closing a customer for a large, high net worth individual. What curiosity that I have is actually to know how you handling those, the closures, if you want to call it as, how are you trying to replace that in-person meetings to, what technology or processes, things that you adopted, and how it is impacting your employees as well as consumers. If you can elaborate on both, please.
Sure. Thanks, Katie, for that. And couldn't agree more in terms of the transformation that we, and I'm sure a lot of others have gone through. I think that's probably the silver lining of this entire period, if at all there is any. I think what this has done is, technology has been there. Technology, actually, if you go back, technology evolution has been far faster than the adoption of technology. And the biggest issue around adoption is, this mindset that we have, right? Which is we are used to working in a particular way, and this is the only way of doing business. Before I even get to my clients, internally in the organization itself, there is a significant amount of resistance. I can't even get to my client, right? I first have to go through, the internal organization itself, right? So what this entire, I guess, lockdown COVID situation did was it basically forced all of us, and here I'm talking about everyone from, the internal organization, our bankers, to the clients, to the regulators, to other service providers. It forced everyone to suddenly adopt or try out new ways of working, right? And in that forced environment, thankfully, we had the technology in place to enable it. It could have been a disaster. It could have, been an issue, but thankfully that was there to actually enable it seamlessly, right? And so in a situation where you very rightly said, as high net worth individuals are, that's, our client segment, I would get laughed at if I would have said, you can actually engage with them effectively without meeting, right? Because this relationship is all about trust at the end of the day. They are trusting us with managing their wealth. It's a big thing. But it's forced our bankers to use, Teams, Zoom. I know there are like 10 applications that all of us have now, to use to effectively engage such that to what extent can it replace a live interaction, right? How do you replicate that itself? So that push has happened. And the brilliant part about this is, I think the receptiveness from the clients have been phenomenal, right? It's how we've gotten used to using Amazon or anything. It's the same way. The client today says, why do I take out time? Why do I get someone to take a flight, do all of it? Here I switch on a meeting. It starts on time. It ends on time. It's perfect, right? What else obviously comes in is with this entire trust factor, I think the entire network becomes more important today. Because how do you derive, how do you get trust, right? You have derived trust, if I may say so, in this virtual world, right? Where you derive trust through someone else's trust. So, in my network, I know someone who's working with IIFL, has a great experience. Yeah, I trust him, and therefore I'm willing to engage and speak to them. And also without a face-to-face meeting, actually onboard them, right? I think one other aspect is, it's important to highlight, this has again been enabled a lot by how regulations have evolved and how quickly they've allowed for some things to be done, right? Online, right? Whether it be KYC or a lot of transaction execution, and not just regulation and service providers, the exchanges, the depositories, the custodians, the banks, all of it kind of coming together and piecing it all together, right? And finally, at the end of it, it is the people, but I'll pause there, I think, before moving on to, because that's another large segment of discussion altogether, Katie, but let me pause there.
Absolutely, Anshuman, and it's so beautifully said, right? I think this world, and I'm sure all of us have seen it. How do we do it? The sales teams, if you have sales team rolling up to you as a business leader, how do you do meetings now? How do you close deals? But remember, so much you moved into virtual, your customers did move to virtual too. I think everybody understands. I think you talked about resilience. You talked about being empathetic to each other and respectful of times. But one thing, it's gone. And what is gone? I'm stuck in traffic. That message, you remember, number of times all of us have sent to our customers in some form or other. We can't do that anymore, being in virtual, right? We can't stuck in traffic, but you can get stuck in one meeting where you're not able to get out to one. But thank you, Anshuman. That's beautiful. I want to bring in Sandhya into the conversation. No, Sandhya, I think being in the consumer banking, especially Citibank, I think Anshuman really touched on that one aspect of using technology like e-KYC or video KYC and stuff like that. And I was one such customer who did the video KYC on Citibank. So I know how it works and stuff like that. But, not just Citibank, across the banking industry, Sandhya, I think working very hard in the last 15, 16 months, even harder than earlier, and to stay connected with customer, leveraging technology. That means the difference in erstwhile we used to call, right? There used to be a digital banking or it could be offline banking. Now the lines are so blurred. Everything is digital. So you probably would prioritize as you're thinking about the future by differentiating customer experience could be and how you treat your customers and stuff like that. But what I want to really get to, considering this foundation and changing customers' behaviors all the time, how do you see banking would look like in the future?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So I think this pandemic actually has had that silver lining effect of causing people to believe in the impossibilities that they thought were. So we have come to realize that, there is a lot of things that can be done digitally, that can be done virtually, which otherwise we have always had our own self-limiting beliefs. And, I've worked in different countries and I've come to realize that Indians are very emotional people. And for any engagement with the customer, it requires a lot of warmth and connect and trust, to even have that beginning of a relationship. And Anshuman, my colleague and friend, he did allude to that aspect. So, so digitizing has, from a technology standpoint, may have not been that difficult because it's a interplay of, how you transform those technologies. But the adoption of it from a customer standpoint, from an employee standpoint, and more importantly, banking is a very highly regulated sector. So regulator also kind of coming on board with those changes is what we have seen as a very stark difference over the last 15, 18 months. And now you would know and you would experience that payments is 24/7. Whether it's your NEFT, RTGS, where there used to be cutoffs, you could only do certain amounts, you could only do up till 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and then the next day. Now it's all 24/7, round the clock, which means technologies, people have to be available to support that for the benefit of a customer. So a lot of customer journeys, actually, if we look at individually, have been transformed to give them that warmth and touch, to give them that aspect of anywhere, anytime banking. Payments is one sector. Then we also have onboarding, digital onboarding, which is facilitated by the video KYC, touchless, totally. You don't have to visit a branch. So our focus, and I'm sure the banking focus, even for the future, is going to be on driving branchless banking, while you may be physically apart, but you're digitally much more closer. You're digitally much more connected to be able to provide each and every service to that customer at their click of a button. I mean, a simple example, is where customers had been struggling with card expiries over the last year. The couriers were shut. There was no delivery of cards. The third parties were shut. There was no production of plastic. And how do you deliver that card to a customer who in that moment of need wants to make a payment, where you cannot go out, there is lockdown, there is limited availability to access to physical cash. So those have been the situations which have also driven innovation, and banks, and I know Sethi, we started delivering the card virtually in the app. So before the expiry, we would deliver a new card in a virtual look and feel into the app of the customer. So they didn't need to go anywhere or apply for renewal, call anywhere. It was available as a number for them to use. So moments like this have been also driving innovation. And I know in future, there are a lot of innovations that are in the pipeline to deliver that, banking on the go and banking at their fingertips. That's the go forward future I see from a banking sector.
It's especially for consumer. If I wear the consumer hats, and there looks like it's music to my ears. Banking now coming to customer convenience, and looks like that's a new chapter in banking, which is highly regulated, industry, if you want to call it as. And there are a few more regulated, but I think banking has been highly regulated, and looks like everybody, the entire ecosystem came together, and looks like really redefining how the future of banking would look like. But I'll come back to you. I have a subsequent one, but I'll come back to you. And I want to pull in, Jasjit into the conversation. Especially, I think he talked about logistics, he's talked about delivery and stuff like that. And I thought, there's no better person to bring in Jasjit, who heads the TCI business. I know TCI is doing a ton of essential services, right, Jasjit, that business that you're in. And you have a diversified set of stakeholders to manage, not just employees, your entire, people on the ground who goes and does this last mile deliveries and stuff like that. Keen to understand, we touched upon consumers so far, but I want you to just double click on how you manage to keep mental well-being of employees in these troubled times. And when everybody is working from home and trying to stay safe, your team and your organization trying to help move the needle in the country?
Great question, Katie. Thank you for asking that. Actually, we work more in a physical world. So we have got the physical, digital both together. There was an analogy of somebody stuck in traffic that won't work anymore because you are at home, but goods have to still move. So while many services can do without a physical movement, which is major part of economy, the physical part of it, the movement, that has to go. You need food on the table, and you need stuff to go around. But before I talk about this, I just want to spend a few seconds on why the work from home could become so successful. People talk about it that, it was COVID was the, kind of a trigger for it to happen, the silver lining. But, I would kind of say that it was something way beyond and far before. So unless the PC had happened, and unless the internet had happened, and unless the PC then became a laptop, and then convergence happened, and until 4G came, we couldn't have had what we had now. So this network was always ready for it. Now imagine COVID happening in the 1980s. Could you have done work from home? No. Even now, you can't hail a cab with a 3G network. You need 4G as well. So it is a lot of these things coming together. So actually, I would say that work from home took 30 years to become an overnight sensation. Okay. And in our world where we have to ensure that, goods and services move. So in the first phase, there was a lot of fear out there. So there were fears which were also genuine fears. Large companies have started to, say that we're going to cut salaries. We're going to cut jobs. Very large companies have said that, some of them backtracked. So first thing was not to add to the mental imbalance of people by this cauldron. So first thing we set across to our people that there's no salary cuts. We will also have the annual increment as usual, and you will be paid on the first of the month as always. And we walked that talk. So people didn't have a job loss as part of it. We also put a caveat to it. So we are network industry. We are present in all districts of the country. But people don't belong to that place. They may be belonging to some other places. If the panic happens and they all start to go back, our network will fall. The physical network would fall. So our condition was that you have to be in town. If you are in town, you'll be taken care of by the ecosystem. But if you go home, then you are on leave. So deterrent was put in place, and we put an app that point in time to check on people's health. That app independently found out the person's location. So whoever was not there, we ensured that he got back immediately. That same app, we extended it to use attendance on a geofencing model. So if I want to put in my attendance, if I'm not in office, I'm somewhere else in Gurgaon, I can't do it. The moment I'm inside the office compound, it will click at the time in office now. So a seamless way, also checking off other stuff as well, about 12 to 15 parameters of health. So employees coming to workplace were assured of that when they come in, the checks would happen for them. There would be sufficient distance maintained. We had isolation rooms in all the premises. that if anybody was unwell, we would isolate him. So people were not afraid to come to the workplace. In fact, we got on record to people saying that we are safer at work than at home. At home, we are doing our stuff without a mask. We have maids coming in, but delivery boys coming in. We don't wear a mask. But in office, we are safer. So that kind of a thing we propagated. Now, many of the warehouses which we run for e-commerce companies, they have 1,000 plus people working there at a single time. So now man distancing between them. So we had to also make protocols more like a relay. So people do not follow each other and there is a sufficient gap. Lunch times were staggered. The lunch areas became like cubicles on the side. So when eating, people are not speaking with each other. So it became a bit of a prison cell look, unfortunately, for the lunchrooms, but that was required at that point in time. And in the first quarter, none of operations stopped. We did not stop a single day in terms of coming to work. Fortunately, we got the approval for urgent services. So everything kept running, the trucks kept running. Same thing we did with the white-collar workers and others. Along with that, in the second wave, what we also have done is built in more ecosystem for people to feel safe. So if somebody's father is unwell, and let's say this guy's father is in Aligarh and he is staying somewhere in Punjab. So we took care of his father's health also. So he didn't rush back. So people felt if I am working for the organization, I'll be taken care of. So they gave their best. It's only when people don't feel they're cared for, they start to, become Atmanirbhar or selfish. But we found also another silver lining is that the peer culture really came to the fore. Normally, in HR parlance, peers are the most difficult person to work together. And they're the most important as well. The community feeling and the feeling of peers helping each other really came to the fore. And we found that, we have become stronger as an organization and also as a community after this, because people have discovered more human values. And the feeling of doing service, the feeling of doing seva has come in very large, which was perhaps we had kind of lost track of it. So, and, the testament to that is that we grew last year in turnover. In all the parameters we grew. So the first quarter was not that good. We grew in all that. And we also did our annual increment for the second year also in April for this year. So, as an enterprise, you take care of your people, put a smile on their face, assure them that they're taken care of, and then ensure your customer taken care of. That's been our simplistic philosophy, which she had in this time. I hope that answers your question, Kate.
Absolutely, Jasjit. I think, that's a phenomenal level of details that you provided, Jasjit. But I think what clearly comes out, reassuring employees and telling them that their jobs are safe and giving them assurance, how the future would look like. Telling them that, they're safe at work and showing them the measures that we put in place. I think that removes the friction point, which could cause mental stress, right? If most of the people can't perform when they're mentally stressed because their mind is preoccupied. Now, looks like you removed all of those objections and made a clarity, given the clarity and giving them a comfort that, you guys have taken care. Now come and do a job and let's go grow the team and you also get taken care. That's beautiful. Thank you, Jasjit, for taking care of that. And before I move to the next panelist, I just want to say, if there are any people who are joining live have any questions, please post it into the Q&A, and we will try to take at least few questions toward the end if the time permits. Thank you. I want to bring in Shreeraj into the conversation. Shreeraj, especially, we talked on multiple occasions, and you have a very responsible position and very prominent business, right? Future Generali, being a COO means, hands are full in the last 15 days, and I'm sure it'll be full in the next fiscal year too. What I'm keen to understand is that, how leading organizations like Future Generali are really moving the needle by incorporating new approaches. I'm sure you have new approaches which are new to financial service industry, especially in the general insurance industry. Are there any use of technology that you have done in the last 15 days, which you would like to move forward in the future, because that gives you efficiency? I have multiple faces, but I think if we can answer the first one, I'll hold the second one later, Shreeraj. New techniques, approaches, and technologies helping you to do, all of your team's job better.
Yeah, thank you, Prasad. I think, one of the major was the major initiative which general insurance companies had to take was for their intermediaries. The general insurance business is basically more intermediary driven. You have business which happens, procurement or enrollment of customers does happen online, but the percentage is comparatively much lesser. But so how do you actually, during this type of a lockdown situation, how could you aid your intermediaries to go digital? So it required giving them the applications to do it. Second, it also required the training for them also. So that was something which we had to do, and we did that. We adapted it very quickly, and thanks, because it was not only the COVID situation. Before that also, there have been a lot of efforts to actually ensure people. There are two things. One is going directly to the customer, and second is through the intermediaries, enabling them to go digitally. So this got fillip during this COVID-19, where people had to adopt to this particular situation. Second comes is about how do you manage how do you satisfy it's a service industry. So you are going to have customers calling you. How do you run your call centers when you have a total lockdown situation? You're locked, your people are not even able to come. So you had to shift this call center agents to home, give them proper software so that they could take calls from home and attend to their. Now, when it comes to claims, so claims don't stop, claims keep on coming. How do you actually use technology to help? So what we did is we actually we started sending, we gave local surveyors also, tabs where they could make a survey, go to the particular place, make a survey, and immediately assess the loss and pay the losses. We also enabled it to customers where a surveyor is not appointed. As per regulations, a certain amount, if the claim is below a certain amount, you need not appoint a licensed surveyor, only something above that you should. So what we did was, we call it IWIS, an application. We just send him a link to the customer, and he gets on with the claims assessor. The guy tells him, okay, go behind your vehicle, go this way, and you assess the claim through his mobile itself. And then you immediately make the payment. I think these are things which the adoption started increasing in a very big way. Most important, again, one was health insurance. When you talk about health insurance, this time was a very difficult time, different time for everybody. People, the hospitals, the insureds, your own people. So while the lockdown one, it was still better. The phase one, it was still manageable. Phase two, we saw a very different situation. We saw the number of beds were very less. You had so many people. Suddenly in those 2 months, you had your own employees affected. Now, when your employees are affected, the regulator also came down on us to help the customers, saying that you need to give a cashless authorization within 60 minutes. So you cannot have the person waiting at the hospital during discharge for more than 60 minutes. And they started calling for data. How much time are you meeting your turnaround time? So to meet those turnaround times, there are so many things which are involved. You need to check the policy conditions, the claim is payable. Not all those things are there. But then the industry rose to the occasion, and every company had to come to that, and we started doing it. And that too, we had employees who were affected. So you already have a depleted staff, and you still have to comply with such. But of course, people went through. But with all this, a lot of things started happening. With all this, earlier it was we even went on. Okay, we were the first actually to say that don't send me the physical copies. I don't want to have the physical copies of your. If you have a claims on reimbursement basis, you scan it and send it to me. I will settle it. You maintain the physical copy with you. If required, anytime I'm going to ask for you. So we went on. So even the bills and receipts, which was a slightly a radical thing, because people were demanding for bills, and at least the original bills and receipts are being there. We said, no, we trust our customers. We are going to do it. We give them portals, you upload it, you do it. So this thing started. So with the customer in view, and how do you actually keep on even self-servicing of so many of those his issues? Can he actually do something good? Can technology help you in self-servicing of some of these issues? So overall, if you look, yes, it has been a tough time for 1.5 years, but it is something which is going to, which has seen us actually jumping into the next stage much quicker. it would have taken for something which we would have taken 5 years to do. We have actually jumped into that stage in a year. So I think it's a good learning, and maybe we may have to keep on adapting to different ways of doing things.
Brilliant. And thank you, Shreeraj. Rightfully so. I think you made that one point about what we could have done in about 5, 6, 7 years of transformation or adoption of digital technologies. Now it's shrunk, in less than a year. Each and every company is embracing into this new world and straight away jumping in and helping your customers and employees and partners. And some of the things that you talked about, claims and stuff like that, I'm a customer of Future Generali. I went through one such process, and I realized I've not stepped out of the home to do anything. I got everything done sitting at a home using technology to get. So I'm a testimony of what you just spoke, Shreeraj. Thank you for the great work you guys are doing. I want to bring Dinesh into the conversation. Dinesh, especially the business that you are part of and manage in India, it has got a multiple stakeholders. Some of the stakeholders are not everybody who sits in front of a computer, have a digital technology, straight away in part of day-to-day life. Of course, there's a mobile phone. You have a community of your electricians, if you want to call it as, to reach out to your distributor to get on to. What I'm keen to understand from you, especially with keeping all of this in mind with very diversified stakeholders, how did you go about, engaging of all of these in the current pandemic, but actually looking at in the next, let's say 12 months, would your future employment things would change? Would we have a different workforce than what you had so far?
Thank you, Prasad, and sorry for not having joined yesterday evening. But a very, very interesting question, right? So I classify the companies pre-COVID, into two. One is the forward-looking or forward-thinking company, in context of the workspaces, and the traditional company. So we are a traditional company because we always felt that being physically available when you're meeting your vendors, when you're meeting your customers, it's very important. These 15 months have changed that entire mindset. So forward-looking companies were, especially the technology companies who are already allowing work from home, and where sort of the flexible working hours, flexible working days. We went through this discussion, debate internally for many years, but we could never get ourselves to have people working from home or work on flexi timings. But what we've concluded after this whole 12 to 15 months of experience is that except the people who are in the factories working on machines and people who are in the warehouses physically dispatching the material, there's actually no need of any physical presence required in an office, right? I mean, that's a very broad definition, right? And not that we're going to implement it right away, but I think that's a direction that we would actually like to take, right? So distributed working for one. We have been able to do vendor evaluations without physically, visiting the vendors' factories. We have done the quality approvals, we've done the process approvals, we have done the process settings. We've done the designs, product designs, remotely with the designers actually creating products, rendering 3D images, sending it to the various stakeholders for approvals or comments. All of that has been done in a very, very efficient manner. So as you mentioned about the stakeholders, I think this experience has been wonderful for us when it came to stakeholders, because we have these architects and electrical consultants who are major influencers in decision making. Now we have engaged with them, I think, much more efficiently than we were in the earlier physical world, because we got an undivided attention. And typically, if we went to an architectural firm, we'll perhaps get an audience with 1 or 2 architects, the associates as they call them. Now here we were addressing 25, 30 associates at one go. So huge effectiveness for that 1 hour spent on a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, making a product presentation. We've actually done, you spoke about electricians. So, we are currently connected with about 50,000 electricians directly. So we actually did electricians meeting, so we have certain new products that we launched in the switchgear, which we explained to them in the vernacular language. And in the normal world, getting these guys together would have been a Herculean task, because they are very, very reluctant to come during the daytime because it's a loss of wages for them. But now in this situation, we obviously got their attention. And see, most of the electricians today carry a smartphone. So for them to attend a meeting, remotely is no longer a challenge. So, these are some of the, we did product launches. I mean, we did, I think about 3 product launches where again, we got audience attendance much more than what we had normally, because in a normal world, you would organize it in a hotel, then send out the invitations. And then you're always apprehensive whether people will attend or not attend. And here we were doing it remotely. And again, we got great audience and undivided attention. So in my belief, this is going to continue because we have seen the benefits, but it will be a hybrid world. So we will have, I think as Sandhya mentioned, Indians do like to meet face to face, right? That's a fact. So there would be perhaps, let's say if you're finalizing a contract or an order, maybe there would be one face-to-face meeting required before you do a final sign-off. But all the preliminary work will happen remotely. I think both on the customer side and our side, we have realized the benefit in terms of the time efficiency. So this is going to continue. So to answer, in short, we will continue with this model of connecting remotely with our stakeholders, and at the same time, then following it up or sealing it with physical meetings. So that's
when you started saying the traditional businesses, so one thing which is common in the panel today also, which you see, there are businesses which are traditional, there are businesses which are very forward looking on adopting technology and differentiating by means by digital presence rather than a physical presence. And like all of our lives have getting blurred between personal and professional, all of us staying and working from home. Like Kavya said at the beginning, and she is having all of us working from a comforts of home. The lines are getting blurred. I think the physical and digital also lines are getting blurred. Now, all of us going to be on a similar, I would say, a foundation or a platform to start engaging our customers and partners and distributors and whatever the entire ecosystem, I would call a value chain. And thank you for Dinesh for sharing that. It's a very clearly evident. It doesn't matter whether you're a traditional company or a large enterprise, small businesses, digital only company. We got to think about some of the things that we have done in the last 15, 16 months. And looks like these are not a short-term solutions. Looks like that has created impact on your businesses. And you would like to continue moving forward on that constant innovation, finding a ways of innovating, right? So which is great. Now I want to talk about one thing which we all in the minds of Indians, right? We're talking about vaccinations because that's what gets us away from current COVID situation and the pandemic situation. Like you guys have heard, the government of India has this goal of vaccinating everybody by end of this year. That's one side of vaccination. Talking to Ranga is always gives me a new avenues to touch upon. Like you guys have heard about helicopter approach in the business. Ranga, you have this very unique way of talking about mental vaccination. Right? All of us gets the physical vaccination, getting COVID Shield, Covax, and other vaccines that are available. But what is this mental vaccination theory that we talked about and which you would share with the rest of the audience, and how it's benefiting engaging your employees?
This COVID has created two major impacts for all of us. One is on the work, which is a new normal, new way of working, digital and all, which is really causing a lot of stress. The other is on the personal life, which is again causing a lot of stress. Like there are more people who are affected by the fear of COVID rather than the COVID itself, right? So there is an escalation of mental stress. And imagine like corporate, we are all like an army, So we have a discipline. Every day morning we get up, we work like a precision. We go to our office, we conduct meetings. So we are like a military people and we are called an army. And now this army has been told to work from home. And working from home is indiscipline. for people like me, right? Because I don't get up at the right time. I'm very lazy because work from home means holiday. So this mental framework needs to change. Imagine instead of work from home, for some reason, the women folk at home are told to work from office along with us. Imagine, it's a story, no, where my wife comes to my office and cooks. How chaotic it will be for me. And she's putting up with my tantrums in home. I'm really saluting them because all the women at home, they have an army style discipline at home, right? The way they cook, the way they do the cleaning, the way they do the washing, they have a very precision time. And now here is a guy sitting at home, watching her, supervising her, giving some ideas, right? Because we are all corporates, we have to give ideas. Amazing in terms of how the women folk at home have really managed the stress. And I salute them. So my vaccination for mine is very simple. All of us love certain things, So whether it is learning some music or reading a book, try to discipline individual work at home also. Like for example, 9:30, you go to your room or a personal space. In fact, with the Paribare and Roca, you can go to your bathroom and work also. The concept called work from bathroom is also available because it's a glamorous bathroom, It's not a dirty bathroom. So go and lock yourself inside between 9:30 and 1. Come out for lunch. Have lunch with your wife or children. Then go back and then come back at 5:30. Then do whatever you want, like go to a terrace and walk, breathe fresh air. Watching COVID news only for 2-3 minutes in a day is good. Do not watch beyond that. You should learn what to watch and what not to watch. Similarly, you need to feed your mind, body, and soul on a routine basis with innovative kind of thing, right? For me, I'm personally benefited because I learn flute, I learn songs, I go for a terrace walk, and then I do some physical exercise because earlier in the pre-COVID era, we used to go to the office, we used to climb up, climb down, walk around in the market, go to the factories. Physically, we were fit. But this COVID had made all of us sit at home and eat. And we are put on weight. We are highly indisciplined at home. So my suggestion to all my participants is please discipline. Discipline is the only way, whether it is at office or at home, we'll be able to lead a fantastic life. So put a lot of vaccination into your mind, body, and soul. Keep feeding them at the right way. Learn kind of what to see, what not to see. And then allow people at home to have their rhythm. Do not spoil their rhythm. Stick to your rhythm. And you will find the light at the end of the tunnel is always visible now. So we will come out of it. We will go back to our offices. We will enjoy a fantastic future for all. And that's my simple points for you.
Thank you, Ranga. So beautifully said. So much to grasp from what you just spoke. Actually, I like the corporate army, and I have not realized that I'm also part of the army because it's just a corporate army. Every point that you made is a true reflection of what we go through day in, day out. Just to add to that point that you talked about, Ranga, and when we went to 100% work from home as a company that I'm part of, Zendesk, and we're all getting busy. And a very similar thought process when what we encouraged everybody, every day we used to drive hour in the morning or 45 minutes, hour, 30 minutes, depends on what you do, which place to which place you want to go. And Bombay, maybe it takes a little longer, Bangalore so much, different places. So we said, use and leverage the drive time for something for yourself. I think pick up a hobby if you don't have one. Try to learn, read a book. I think there's so many things for us to utilize the time rather than utilizing time, like you said, watching a news time and again. So thank you for that, for mental vaccine or a mind vaccine, Ranga. Now talk about vaccination, and I can't get back to my other panelists, but to interest of time, I want to do a little bit of speed one. I would like you guys to talk about one or two things that what you've seen in COVID era in the last 15 and probably 6 months down the line, we'll come out of it with flying colors and future would look all bright and shine. With that in mind, let's see if I bring in Sandhya into the conversation. And Sandhya, especially with the banking, what are the future of work on the new normal would look like, especially with the increased vaccination that we're seeing across the country and the world? And probably we're probably going back to pre-COVID times very quickly. how does the future of work would look like?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. I think we're all very looking forward to get back to workspaces, but I also feel that it's not going to be the same ever, because with all these new ways of working that we have, discovered during this era. I mean, some people, as Rangaji mentioned, will have been going through some mental stress or situations. But there is this other set of youth which actually was staying away from family due to work and has had the opportunity to live with family while working and spend more family time and be able to take care of elderly parents and siblings, etc., are finding a lot more flexibility, are finding a lot more comfort in deriving this way of working. So we are seeing a very mixed feedback in terms of the preferences of people. And yes, some Pariware customers would like to work from their bathrooms as well. So, considering some of these preferences, and, I feel that the new way of working is going to be derived largely from 3 Ps. One is going to be the physical workspace, which could be different for different people based on the nature of work. Obviously, certain roles that can be done remotely, which now we have come to realize, maybe, in that category. And the preference of the employees is something that, we're looking at to be able to offer. And the second P is around the process and the platforms, because we have to enable more digital processes to support the remote working and a hybrid model of remote and physical being in office, or that kind of a workspace, and also develop systems and technologies and platforms to facilitate that through using more cloud, more data access, but also strengthening cybersecurity and strengthening data information control. So those are the things in the pipeline, and I see many companies looking into that space as well. And the most important, the third P, is the people and culture, because the whole definition of people management is now going to be different. People with the preferences of working from home, the definition of people management is going to be different. And why so? Because we have set up an office in their home. We have gone to their home. So then we have to take care of their home as well. Looking at offerings around elderly care, offerings around mental wellness, overall fitness, overall well-being, and leading with empathy is going to be the new normal, from a people management perspective. And how do you strike the balance between, people working in office all the time, people working remote all the time, and a third category of people who may be opting for a hybrid model of working a few days in office and a few days from home? How does the manager derive a fairness amongst those performance metrics, looking at those performance measures in a fair way, and driving inclusion? Should not be out of sight, out of mind, but driving inclusion towards the entire team with being digitally connected, emotionally connected, personally connected, and maybe physically apart. So those are going to be the new normals. Those are going to be the key strengths, key skills of a successful team, in the future of work.
Thank you, Sandhya. I think being deliberate about being empathetic, being inclusive, these are all deliberations that we got to do it and put forefront of how we want to take this to future. Thank you, Sandhya, for that. And, Shreeraj, I want to come to you and I want to ask you this question about, I know we discussed about how we all getting, I call a little bit of too many meetings that we try to do, right? Because Zoom is, or Teams or whatever that you guys use, people try to add people, others into the call. There could be many, many people coming into the one call. I'm sure this is changed, and this is the behavioral change that you would have seen in the last 16, 17 months, right? During the pandemic. I'm sure you would have addressed it in a very smart way. For all those, how do you suggest, especially in the balance of life that we have to have today, overdoing something also, overdoing meetings also doesn't have. How are you tackling as a COO or a people manager or a leader of the business of these matters?
Yeah, see, I think Ranga and Sandhya put it out very, very nicely. In fact, one of the most important parts in this, I think the rules of digital, the era has to change in case of we have to rewrite, the HR has to rewrite, or we have to rewrite the rules. Today, we talk about people getting engaged. We talk about people going to office around 9:30, 10, and then finishing off at 6. There is a time where you disconnect, actually, when you, whether it travel home or something, but most of the matters get solved within that time. But why do you require more time now? In the digital era, most of the employees start complaining, no, we start at as early as 9, but we don't end till 8:30 and 9. Whereas when we used to come to office, things used to get over quickly. We used to disconnect from, we drive home at the most a few calls on the, otherwise we never used to have any office thing unless very urgent. So I think this is where it comes from. The rules have to change. We need to come in because connecting over a call is so easy. Inviting people for calls, there is no, we need to maintain. So something like somebody comes to your cabin and you just tell him, no, you can't do it, or yes, you can go ahead, which is just a matter of 2 minutes. But if this is to happen digitally or on a call, this takes another half an hour to solve. So the guy keeps on saying, no, let me do it, or whatever it is. So there is a lot of things which keep on happening at that time. Why not this? Why not we negotiate? So these things, when the fellow physically sees you, it is yes, he knows that whatever you do, it's a no means no, or whatever you do, it's a yes is yes. So I think these are things which people have to learn across, build across. Maybe some organizations have talked about, we talk about why not you restrict your calls to a particular time. Let us not have all these types of calls right from 9 o'clock. You can have fixed meetings from 9 o'clock till 9 o'clock at night. It doesn't make sense. You need to have, say, start somewhere between 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock. All your office calls should have, or calls should be during, organize them, call only people who are required on that call. Just because you can just add a person, now why not have him also? If he's present, let him attend. So I think these are things which sort of things which people have to come in. New rules have to be written during this period.
Absolutely. The future looks like, if you're getting and continues to be in the digital first virtual everyday world, I think there got to be some more principled, disciplined approach being in digital. So thank you, Shreeraj, for sharing. And I'll come back to you, Anshuman, and I think want to put you on the spot and asking you one thing that you've done in the last few months that you would definitely take it to the future because it's got a positive impact to your employees or customers, and one thing you've done which you would not carry forward. Would you want to share those one thing which you would carry forward in the future, which you probably wouldn't also?
Sure, Katie. I think what is not to be carried forward is very easy because Shreeraj has just highlighted the same. I think, that's the biggest learning that we have. The discipline around timelines, not assuming that everyone is available at any point of time because they're at home and work is from home. Not again assuming that weekends are available. All that has to go, right? I think what will continue, Katie, a very important aspect is how we are engaging with our employees, right? Why do we continue in companies for so long? So many of us have been in companies for years, for decades, right? It's because it's not just because of the pay or anything. It's the connect that you have with the company. It's the sense of belonging that you have, right? It's the values that that strike a chord with you. Now, all of this we see is at the risk of potentially breaking down in this new world because that sense of belonging, sense of connect goes down, right? Where are we sitting and generally just having a cup of coffee if we are working in the offline world? Where are we catching up in the cafeteria across levels without any hierarchy, over a meal, right? Those things are not happening. So we've tried a lot, a lot of our HR kind of reinventing themselves has been around how do we maintain that connect where the value, the ethos of the company is still getting communicated again and again, right? And the sense of belonging is very much there, right? And how is that effectively done? Is there a definite answer to it? No, I think there are multiple things we are trying, overdo on communication, type of sessions, different informal connects that are there. All of those things, I'm not sure what is the magic sauce over there, but there has to be something, it has to be something that we keep absolutely top of mind. Otherwise, we'll have people who will come in and go, and the loyalty, the trust factor, the relationship with the company, with the people will not kind of continue on. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I just got a little bit of poke saying that we got to wrap up quickly. So I just have a couple of questions. I think, Jasjit, this is the question from audience, which I would probably pose it to you. Especially this has come from Nicole from VT Tech Solution. I think the question is around, does work-life balance really exist now? Also there is a lot of conversation on social media with regard to mental awareness.
I'll call you back.
Sorry, Dinesh.
Sorry.
No worries, Dinesh. Especially the work-life balance is still, does it exist now? If you could just concisely answer the question, Jasjit.
That's a great question, but to a wrong person. I'll tell you why. For us, there was a time when we would have warehouses operating 7 days a week, 9 to 10 to 5. Then they were 12 hours. Then with e-commerce came in, they became overnight. So we never really had a work-life balance. So for us, that's on the lighter side. But I think this has kind of been answered by other colleagues as well. So, the blurring has happened not only of time, but also of space. I don't think there's anyone here who has not taken his phone or laptop into the washroom. I don't think there would be anybody. So whatever washrooms they are. So that have become blurred. And flexibility is a double-edged sword. When we feel we are flexible about it, even we are going out with the family, we are going to a restaurant, we are still doing some work there. So we are supposed to have some amount of, boundaries that when you get out, you are then on a different wavelength. So those have got blurred. And the objective of probably all work is productivity. We earlier used to measure work by number of hours logged in. That I would come to work 9 to 5, number of hours, traditional method. Then it became that amount of work done, productivity. Yeah. So productivity actually went up initially in the lockdown because people were working very hard. Then the work-life balance got to them. All issues happened. And then while work remained from home, the leisure activities went up. So Goa became a very big hotspot. So people were carrying work all over there. So then it actually kind of plateaued off and came down. And surprisingly, in all the committees within our organization, it is the IT people who wanted to get back to work first because they needed to be with their own teams and talk about issues which they were having, which they were not able to resolve offline. So a short answer to that, work-life balance has gone for a toss. It was only work earlier. Now it's more towards the other side.
Absolutely. Thank you. In fact, Dinesh was so kind enough. He kind of shared some of his thoughts on offline to me. Dinesh, thank you. I'm sure there are plenty more that you're thinking through. Out of those 5 things, Dinesh, if I ask you, due to interest of time, there's one thing that you would definitely, as a leader, that you would double down. I think you talked about go to green and outer spaces, homeward bound, and multiple things. One thing in particular that's top of the mind that you will take it to the future, which will incorporate into future of work.
I think the outdoor spaces. I've seen this through my experience. In various companies, that taking people out of their normal zone of working always is more productive, right? Of course, there's a kind of a relaxation or a kind of a holiday British part of it. But the deliberations that I've been a part of in the off-site meetings, I think are much more creative, much more different than the deliberations, discussions that you have inside the office. So I would certainly like to carry that forward more.
Thank you, Dinesh. Really appreciate it. Maybe this is.
I'll just take an opportunity. Since I think the biggest challenge that traditional companies today face are, and I also don't have an answer for this, is how do you measure productivity? While all this hybrid work from home is fine, but a traditional company like ours, we are unable to answer this, that how do I make sure that everyone is doing their bit? While sales, manufacturing is directly measurable, this question remains. So I think this is going to be one big challenge for all companies. How do you, if you're allowing office people to work from home, how are you making sure that they're delivering?
Yeah. Absolutely, Dinesh, you're not alone, and this topic is not alone. In fact, Anshuman and I were talking about it, we might not have figured out answers for every problem. I think as long as leaders in the industry and in the businesses, we recognize that is a problem, acknowledge it's a problem for us to address, I think it's a first stepping towards finding a solution. I think all of us will put our bright minds, and I'm sure our teams will also come together, will find those avenues to find solutions. I want to summarize and thank each and every panelist for sharing very interesting views about how the future of work would look like, and what something that worked beautifully that would carry forward in the future. But the core pillars of future of work, I think looks like there's a little more emphasis on being empathetic, taking care of employee well-being, mental healthness. Ranga talked about a beautiful summary about, how mental vaccination or that vaccination to the mind is so important. I think it's a fantastic conversation. We could go further along than this last 1 hour that we spent together. I want to thank all the panelists for a beautiful engagement, and all the audience who are posing a lot of questions. I know due to interest of time, we couldn't take all the questions. We could take only one. And just wanted to say thank you for your patient listening. And I'm sure you gained something from our experts of panel today. We wish you to stay safe and be safe and take care of your family. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Katie, for beautifully moderating that session. And thank you indeed to all of our panelists for joining in and sharing your thoughts with all of us. Yes, absolutely. I could also see in the chat all the insights that were flowing in. But most importantly, the kind of insights we managed to extract from you all, I'm sure it's going to pave way for people to understand where the future is headed. So thank you once again to all of our panelists.
Thank you.